Hello everybody, my name is Christian, and today, you there, if you're a Cyrene hater, I want you to sit down in your chair and watch this video. You are going to understand, everybody is going to understand. This character is perfectly fine and is in fact a positive addition to Honkai Star Rail. I am not getting paid for this. I am doing this because I like the game. And because I want to talk about it in a positive light, because people always downplay characters or always spread hate to those that they think are just not quote-unquote good enough, when, by the way, this game doesn't release characters in an unusable state anymore. This game does not release bad characters. And it feels like people don't understand that. So, you there, haters in the audience, haters in the Twitch chat, sit your happy ass down and take a listen. Today, we are going to be talking about the biggest winners of Cyrene. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, join our Discord down below, and let's get into it. Let's pause real quick and take a brief word from our sponsor, LD Shop. With so many good characters coming out soon, many players simply don't have the jades they need to get them all. Now, if only there was a cheaper way to get top-ups for games like Star Rail and ZZZ. Well, that's where the sponsor of the video comes in, LD Shop. LD Shop is a safe and reliable top-up site for all your favorite games. They offer top-ups at a more affordable price than in-game, and can even activate your first top-up bonus if you haven't used it already. All you have to do is click the bundle you want, put in your server and UID, and your top-up will appear in-game shortly after. If you buy using my link as well, you can get a 5% and 15% coupon good for $50. Last but not least, if you consistently use LD Shop and spend over $80 for the month, you can get an Express Supply Pass completely free on your homepage. Use the link in the description or the pinned comment. Thank you so much to LD Shop for sponsoring. Let's get back to the video. So the way I'm going to be talking about most of this is specifically through this segment of the Preduin page. It is the Ode to Chrysos Heir's skills. The reason I'm using this specifically is mainly because the biggest aspect of Cyrene is in fact her specific ability to grant unique buffs to all the Chrysos heirs. The first character I want to talk about, and the character who I personally think is the biggest winner of Cyrene entering the game. It is 100% Mighty, in my opinion. Let me talk about this. Mighty's specific talent. If you are in the Vendetta state, which, by the way, it is almost impossible to not be in the Vendetta state by the time you get the Cyrene talent. If you are in the Vendetta state, you will automatically use an instance of Godslayer Be God. No charge is consumed either, and you get a 200% crit damage increase. That is insane. And here's the thing. Mighty has been the kicking bag of this fucking game for so long. Mighty has been getting his shit beaten every single day. Mighty was just not respected at all, basically, by players, by devs. Even in the story, he got punked so many times. And he's a real one. Can I say the coolest? Honestly, I might be able to say the coolest. Mighty is at least one of the top 3 coolest characters from Amphorius, and they punk this man every single time, and I'm so upset about it. Okay, sorry. Anyway, the thing is, though, with Mighty is that he was put in a very bad spot, as we all know. If you are a player who really loves HP scalers, and you're a meta player, there is absolutely no reason to be using Mighty. You should be using Casterus in that case if you only care about meta, or even then, there are just more people who are gonna like the funny girl with dragon over the hot blonde man with a lion. That's just how this game plays out in most cases. For Casterus, her ideal team is Mighty's exact ideal team. You would have, when both of them came out, you would have Cassie or Mighty, and then it would be Tribby. You would have some sort of action advance for Mighty, or you could do RMC, and then with Cassie, you want RMC, when they both came out. Then, insert healer here. So Luocha, Gallagher, and then eventually Hyasin. Those two characters have the exact same team. So if you wanted to use both of them, it was almost impossible. Because let's jump ahead a little bit to when we have more Casterus-specific teammates with Evernight. Well, Hyasin, because in most cases, Mighty still wants Hyasin to some degree, but at the same time, Mighty is much more capable of still exceeding with, like, Luocha Gallagher compared to Casterus. So it would be Casterus, Evernight, Tribby, Hyasin, and then Mighty. Mighty would be running Mighty, Sunday. You would still want Tribby for that team, by the way, so that's already rough. And then after that, you're either taking Luocha or Gallagher. One of these teams is significantly stronger, and I don't exactly think I need to tell you which one it is. One of these teams is significantly stronger at E0S1. So that is unbelievably rough. This problem still exists nowadays, if we're being honest. Because even with Cyrene, you are probably going to prefer running Cyrene on the Casterus team, if you're doing Casterus, Evernight, Cyrene, Hyasin. But the thing is, though, is that the very existence of Cyrene, it means that Mighty can finally have an ideal teammate for him specifically in Tribby. Like, if you were somebody who had multiple of these characters, you could finally have Tribby available on that team, or you could even have, like, Hyasin, and you could have it be validated, because Cyrene existed. And now, let's actually talk about her on the team, because, once again, immediate Godslayer be God. If you don't play Mighty, you know nothing about Mighty, Godslayer be God is his absolute strongest attack. Godslayer be God is immensely powerful, and it is how he does the bulk of his damage. His enhanced skill damage is nice. The Godslayer be God is by far his most powerful attack that is going to be giving you all of your work actually on enemies. Now, here's the thing. This being a one-time effect means that, in most cases, the way Cyrene works is that the moment you get her ultimate, all 24 recollection points, you will use the ultimate. It'll activate all of your character's ultimates. Mighty's ultimate does damage, and it gives charge, I'm pretty sure. So that's already the first thing, is that you might be able to get a Godslayer be God out of that alone. Because you can ult, then you can Cyrene ult, get another ultimate for Mighty, so that might give you a Godslayer be God. Then you can reapply this buff and immediately Godslayer be God. Here's the thing that I feel like if you don't know, like if you don't have Cyrene, you're not going to know this. When Cyrene first uses her ultimate, she retains 12 points of recollection, meaning she can immediately use another one of these Ode to talents again. You can literally do the first one on Mighty, he Godslayer be Gods, then you can immediately do it again and do another Godslayer be God. That's like the easiest, like 600k plus damage of your life. Now, let's consider the fact that Cereedra exists, chat. Cereedra was seen as a much more unconventional option for Mighty for a while, and it takes like a very specific type of game plan and style to actually make it succeed, compared to just doing action advance with like Tribby as the other teammate. You needed much more strategy to actually make Cereedra Mighty work. You need to think about how many skills that you can do, because Cereedra can replicate Godslayer be God. That is insane. And it does more damage when Cereedra reprocs it. There is a scenario where you can do 3 Godslayer be Gods in a row. 3 of them. That is incredible. I do absolutely think that with Cyrene available, Mighty's best team changes entirely. Like, mostly you're running Mighty with the usual, like, Sunday Tribby, like, Luocha, Hyasin setup. Or maybe you're running Mighty with, like, Casterus as a dual DPS sort of thing. This changes Mighty's ideal team to Mighty, Cyrene, Cereedra, and Hyasin. It sounds so stupid on paper, but it might be one of the most incredible lineups in the game. This entire video is going to be about Mighty, I'm not going to lie. This entire video, I think I've been talking about Mighty for already 10 minutes straight, but I cannot describe it enough. A character that was hated by the community so vehemently and described as like a brain-dead option for players, like never treated with any substantial amount of respect by anybody in this community. This is such an amazing turning point because now, Mighty is one of the most calculated characters in the game because you need to perfectly time your Cyrene ults, you need to time your Cereedra charges, because if you waste one of the repeat skills on his basic enhanced skill, you lose such a monumental amount of damage, it's not even funny. Again, you're managing all of this at the exact same time to try and maximize your damage for a character that will otherwise struggle in most scenarios, because he doesn't have as many characters built for him, so his power level is a bit lower. It is insane to just think about the absolute turn that Mighty has taken as a character because of this most recent balancing and this most recent character inclusion. As a Mighty fan, I'm just so happy about this scenario. This is hilarious to me. I absolutely love it. So anyway, chat, how long have I been recording for? 16 minutes, and yep, at least 13 of it was talking about Mighty. So that is who I think is the absolute biggest winner of Cyrene by far. So now let's get into the other characters who are a bit lower in my opinion, but not by much at all. The second character, this one might be, I don't know how much of a hot take this is. I think that the second biggest winner of Cyrene is actually Cereedra. We will be talking about Anexa in a second, because I do think Anexa is very high. But I think Cereedra is the biggest winner of, or Cereedra is like the next biggest winner of Cyrene. For those of you who do not know what Cereedra's special ode is, effective for the entire battle. After using on Cereedra, increases the crit damage of the character with military merit by 30%. Unimpressive, you know, not that great. After her talent ends, Cereedra immediately gains 1 point of charge. Every time the repeat skill happens, you get 1 point of charge back. You are permanently always up 1 charge point. Over the course of a fight, do you understand how much better that is? That is going to get you so many more whatever you're using. That is going to get you even more Anexa skills. That is going to get you even more Godslayer be Gods. That is going to get you even more Paiano Meteor. Well, maybe not, because Paiano is on a time limit. But regardless, that is incredible. On paper, you wouldn't think it's that good, but because she's a support, it's not about Cereedra, it's about the character she runs with. And considering I just said the fact that I think with Cyrene, Cereedra is now in Mighty's best team, and Cereedra was already in Paiano and Anexa's best teams, her having that sort of benefit now for these three characters, and her being that important to what they want to do, that is absolutely incredible, and I think it fully warrants being like the quote-unquote next biggest winner. Her talent just gets so much better automatically. And then a 30% crit damage increase really isn't anything to ride home about, but damage is damage, people. Like, let's not forget, damage is 100% damage. I think that this is pretty safely one of the best things to come out of Cyrene. But, you know, if you guys want to disagree and you think it's actually not that impactful, I can understand that. I can fully understand that. To any of my Cyrene Cereedra players out there, though, this is always the first buff you should be doing. This is 100% the first buff you should be applying in battle, because it'll make the rest of your battle that much easier. Yeah, what was that? 13 minutes for Mighty, 2 minutes for Cereedra? Sounds about right. Anyway, reminder, chat, I really don't like Cereedra. So the next character I'm going to talk about, we already alluded to it in Twitch chat. It is Anexa. Anexa is... he's already really, really good. Anexa is already an incredible character. And now, he can do everything he normally does on crack. Let me read this out. The talent for Anexa is called Ode to Reason. One-time effect. When used on Anexa, recover 1 skill point for allies and allows Anexa to take action immediately. Increases the number of skill damage instances by 3 for 1 turn. Then it's some stuff about increasing the attack of all Erudition Path characters. That one is an interesting way of kind of trying to keep Herta relevant with Anexa. I'm not sure how I feel about that one, but the other half of it is increased skill damage dealt by 40%. That is very good. First of all, let's just talk about the fact that Cyrene is an action advancer for Anexa. Now, in that sense, you don't even have to worry about having like a Sunday around, which is hilarious. So that's the first thing. Increases the number of skill damage instances by 3 for 1 turn. You are getting, with Cereedra, 4 uses of your skill. And instead of 5 bounces, you get 8. You are shooting somebody 32 times. Think about that. You are shooting somebody 32 times with Anexa. And it's an action advance, too. That's hilarious. Like, I cannot describe how funny that is. You thought you could pop the Glock right now? Oh my god, how little we all knew. Anexa was carrying extra ammo. Yeah, right now, this is like, genuinely, with this new combination of Anexa, Cereedra, Cyrene, and then if you want a 0 cycle, or if you have enough faith in what you can do, you can put RMC in that team. That might legitimately be one of the, bar none, strongest teams in the game right now. That team is incredibly powerful. And, you know, they always want to keep finding ways to make sure that the quote-unquote frail scholar isn't that frail. Because this is ridiculous. The power level is just so much higher that it is unbelievable to me. This feels like, if I'm being honest, this feels like the era of action advance is kind of dying. That's the best way I can describe it. It feels like the era of action advancers specifically is dying. And we're favoring, you know, not even more unique buffs, but just something. This is something just so much harder to describe. You are buffing your character to an unreal amount and just upgrading their capabilities. It's so funny. I don't know. I love it so much what this character and what this combination is unlocking overall. This is amazing. Yeah, that's exactly it. Action advance is boring for most players. I kind of love that Star Rail has taken the steps to change that, essentially. They're giving us something unique. It was first with Cereedra, and everybody complained about that, bunch of whiny losers. But then, now they're giving us Cyrene, who offers something unique to every single character that she can work with. That's amazing. I think that is perfect. Like, that is quality game design, and people are so pissed about it because it's not universal. It's not universal, and it's like, it's a slow ramp-up time. Go die in a ditch, you're a loser, my lord! But yeah, Anexa's power level raises substantially with this, in my opinion, and I really do think that Cereedra and Anexa combined is now one of the strongest teams you can make in this game. Alright, so anyway, the Anexa section was a bit more passionate. So, I have something written down for the rest of the Chrysos heirs. There is a specific distinction I want to make between the next few entries on the list, like the next 2. On this list is a team, and it is specifically the Mono Remembrance HP team. This is a very important distinction. I'm not saying that Castris is a winner. I'm not saying that Evernight is a winner. I'm not saying that, like, Cyrene is a winner of herself, or Hyasin is a winner. However, Hyasin is a winner, and I will be talking about that in a second. But Mono Remembrance HP is a winner of Cyrene. I first want to talk about, before getting into that, I want to talk about Hyasin, who I think that this is low-key, like, the biggest and most interesting part of the buffs for that new Casterus team, or even like that new Evernight team. So what this talent is, it's Ode to Sky. By the way, I've learned this. You don't need to cast this on Hyasin. The same thing applies to Danheng PT. You do not need to cast these buffs on those characters. When Cyrene's Memo Sprite uses skill, it causes Hyasin to gain 2 stacks of Ode to Sky. When used on Hyasin, regenerates 24 energy. That's already the first thing. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. When Hyasin has Ode to Sky and is providing healing, additionally increases the healing value for Little Ika's Memo Sprite skill by an amount equal to 72% of the healing value this time. Every time Hyasin uses skill or ultimate, it consumes 1 stack of Ode to Sky. Hyasin gets 24 energy when this is used. That is fantastic. The more you can get your ults, the more of a benefit it is for your team, because Ika will be doing damage and you will be getting charge for Casterus. That is already incredible. And then whenever you skill, you get the energy, so it's not even linked to specifically one thing. So this can still work perfectly well if you're like an Evernight main DPS player. This is amazing. And that's even without taking into consideration the fact the healing increases. You want to know what the increased healing does? It gives Casterus more new bud. So, by just this existing, by this is better. This is almost better than Casterus's buff on its own. I'm going to be so honest. Because Casterus's buff basically just means that you don't overcap on new bud. Pretty nice. I will fully admit, pretty nice. This is the biggest buff for that team in my opinion. Because you're getting more overall damage with, like, from Ika. You're getting higher healing values. So, you're never going to be in any danger, and you're getting more consistent new bud charges. And it's not even hard to keep up with. It's really not. Like, this is hilarious. They just keep finding a way to make Hyasin the most broken character in the game, and it never fails to piss me off. So anyway, I have E1 Hyasin now on accident. Nobody's gonna believe that was an accident, but it was 100% an accident. I did a single pull because I was a bit cranky, and it flashed. I don't know what to tell you. You buckled. I'm gonna time you out. So I think Hyasin is just... She has an incredibly high value with this Cyrene buff, and that alone, I think, kind of warrants her being a winner. Because it even makes building her easier now, because the funny thing is, you can just ignore energy regeneration rate on Hyasin. Yeah, build more HP, do more damage. It's like the meme of passing somebody the gun and just say, go, commit a crime. That's really what this feels like for Hyasin. Alright, so the second to last thing that I want to touch on is I want to talk about specifically the mono rem HP team. This is going to be very short since I covered almost everything I wanted to with Hyasin, but this team was already the strongest in the game in my opinion from like an overall perspective, factoring in casual and like very meta players. All Cyrene has done is make this even further the best team in the game. I really do not think that there is a single argument in the world that you can make that will put any team above Mono Remembrance right now. There is not a single argument you can make, in my opinion, unless it pertains to Eidolons. These characters work so well together. Cyrene probably has the best overall synergy with the fellow HP scalers. And some of the best buffs for Cyrene go to the HP scaling characters. There you go. There is really not much else you can say. I think that this team is now the best team in the game, bar none. And Cyrene really completes it in a way that is unbelievably terrifying for the future. But hey, I'm not here to talk about that. That's a video next week. The last character I want to talk about today is Aglia. I think that the buff for Aglia is not actually that substantial. Ode to Romance. One-time effect. When used on Aglia, causes Aglia to gain Romantic, and immediately stacks Garment Maker's Memo Sprite Talent Speed Boost effect to its max. After Aglia or Garment Maker uses an attack, consumes romantic and regenerates 70 energy, increases damage dealt by Aglia and Garment Maker by 72%, and ignores 36% of the target's defense, lasting until Aglia exits the Supreme Stance state. So, the big thing with Aglia is she has a long ramp-up time. You need for Garment Maker to hit the enemy a fair few times. You need to activate your Supreme Stance state early, and then you have to make sure you're properly speed-tuned and all that. It is definitely a pain. Cyrene will get you to max stacks instantly upon using this. And let's keep in mind, you need to activate your ultimate to actually get to this talent, which means that Aglia instantly gets her ultimate the first time you use it. That is, yeah, that's insane. This is without even taking into consideration the damage buff. You get your full stacks, you can go straight into your ultimate, you get energy off rip for your next ultimate, and now, while you are in Supreme Stance state, which by the way, you as an Aglia player should never be exiting Supreme Stance state unless you fucking die. So now, you are getting 72% damage increase and a defense ignore of 36%. That is incredible, because you compare this with Aglia's E1 for even more damage. There is nothing to complain about. I do not think that this is as incredible in an optimal setting as some of the other buffs. I think that this is still an incredible buff, though. Like, this is high quality, this is super nice, and there is not really a downside to it in any way, shape, or form, if we're being honest. I really, really like this buff. I think it is super helpful for Aglia and Aglia players. Will fully admit, I am incredibly biased. This only seems like a positive to me, and there's probably going to be ways that we see in the future that is going to revolutionize what this can do for the character. And I personally love that, because I think that there is quite a bit of potential here that has not been unlocked yet. All right, so, chat. Yeah, that's the last of my winners. That is the last of my winners. Why do I think that the other characters aren't as big of winners? Oh, boy. All right, so, Aglia, you know, relative winner. Anexa, definitely a winner. Casterus is a winner, but mainly in the fact that it's a mono remembrance team. The overcap on the new bud is... it's very helpful. It's a nice quality of life feature. The increased damage dealt really isn't anything substantial, especially considering the fact that Cyrene casts a field that does additional true damage. So it doesn't even really matter that much that you're doing slightly more damage percent. Like, you're going to be still getting a bunch more damage. Cereedra, massive winner. Let's talk about Cypher and Tribby real quick. Cypher and Tribby both have their effect basically be increased damage or additional defense down, and it's effective for the entire battle. You need to be playing a wacky-ass, like, duct tape team to have Cyrene and Cypher, or Cyrene and Tribby in the same team. The one instance I can personally think of is main DPS Evernight. That is really the only instance where I can think of these characters existing in the exact same context. DPS Cyrene too. I'm not listening to propaganda today. So there really isn't much for these characters to do together, and especially Cypher's best place isn't with Chrysos Heirs, and Tribby's best place is no longer with Chrysos Heirs. It's with almost every other team in the game. These characters simply do not work together in a meaningful way, and even if the buffs are, like, not bad, you're not going to be able to take full advantage of them, and they're not good enough to warrant trying to do that over anything else. Hyasin. The way DOT works, it's almost just impossible to make this still substantially good. The way DOT works, this is so hard to make function well, because no matter if you are running Hyasin, even if Cyrene gives a good buff that allows Hyasin to detonate everything herself, you almost certainly still need Kafka, which kills your recollection gain. You're replacing your other DPS in that scenario, which is Black Swan, with Cyrene, and Kafka cannot benefit really from the buffs, because a 40% damage increase is mid. You can at least use Danhung PT or Hyasin to kinda alleviate things a little bit, or to get more recollection points, but yeah, no. This is just... Hyasin's, I just don't think it's that good. And yes, I'm aware that there's a bug in the game currently. I get it. And I don't know, if they don't fix it, then maybe there's more argument to this. I'm kind of going into this with the assumption they're going to fix it, but we'll see. Last thing, the last character I want to talk about who's actually substantial is Paiano. Paiano doesn't really gain anything from this, let's be honest. Like, you get crit rate, you get slightly more damage, you can't even get all the additional core flame stacks because you need, like, E6 Paiano to get all of the core flame overcap. The HP thing is, like, it's not that bad. You get to stay in your enhanced form for longer. You are turning Paiano into Aglia, where if you leave your enhanced form, it is game over. You suck, you lose. That's not the worst thing in the world, but I would personally rather just use Cereedra, like Danhung PT and Sunday. Me personally, I think Danhung PT was a better addition for Paiano specifically than Cyrene is. I think Danhung PT was enough of a, like, quote-unquote buff for him. Trailblazer is not, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, RMC's buff is pretty meaningless, but hey, if you want to run main DPS Cyrene, do that. It's pretty good. They work well together. And yeah, I think that's it, actually. That's all of them. Because Everknight's buff is, once again, paired with Castris. It's not bad, and it's more damage, more buffs, but it doesn't really matter in any meaningful way. Because, again, you just slap shit on Hyasin, and then you get the little overflow thing, and bada boom, you're killing everything in sight. It doesn't really matter that much. I don't think I'm missing anything now, so yeah. That is who I think is the biggest winners of Cyrene. I am very curious to see what you all in the comments have to say. Very much appreciate to hear some other opinions, especially about, like, Aglia specifically, and kind of about Paiano, because I don't feel good putting him down there, but I just don't see how it's a real benefit. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I've got plenty more good videos coming out soon, so I will see you guys then. Bye-bye.